It's the run to the line. Workman's off the track. He's got all 4 Michelin's over the white line. He's defending.
Everything interesting happens off the racing line.
Welcome to Off the Racing Line. I am your host, Carlos Espitia, and joining me, as always, is Mike Moore. Mike, welcome back.
My pleasure, as always. Nice
Mike,
haircut, by the way, buddy.
You like it?
Yeah, styling in the summer.
I don't know. I'm still kind of getting used to it. It's for the summer.
Eventually, you have to do it, out of necessity because nature takes over. So you hang on to that as long as you can.
I'm going to start wearing hats if it doesn't grow on me. But anyways, as I was getting ready for the podcast today, it dawned on me that we don't usually introduce what the podcast is about. We introduce ourselves,
right,
but not the podcast. And I think as our viewership starts to grow, we should introduce it in the form of perhaps a slogan. Do you have any ideas?
Slogan. I don't know about a slogan. The way I see this podcast is it's sort of, you're familiar with Pro-Am golf tournaments, right? You've got, you're not familiar with Pro-Am golf tournament? No, the way a Pro-Am golf tournament works is you've got generally a foursome of people, right? And you've got one pro, right, who is generally our guest.
Okay.
Then you've got a couple of people that, they sort of know what they're doing, and then that would be me. And then there's always a hack that has absolutely no idea what they're doing.
That would be me.
They just sort of put the money in to get to show up and hang out with cool people. So you're the only one left that I haven't.
Okay, what is the show about?
So we are a pro-am grassroots motorsport podcast. We are, we get together, we talk about stuff that makes sense to regular people. Car people that are just sort of dipping their toes into the motorsports HPDE experience.
Right.
I think that's a good general summary. It seems like an awful slogan, to be honest with you. It's very long.
It's a very long slogan.
Right.
I don't know if we can fit all that into, under the logo.
Well,
but
stay tuned for next episode. Or do you have a suggestion?
We are working on it. No, well, I'm along the same lines as what you mentioned. A raw grassroots motorsports podcast for drivers, instructors, and racers. Something along those lines.
For sure.
If we have any viewers or listeners that, want to submit their favorite
suggestion in the comment below.
Yeah. You could win a free trip to Boca Raton, Florida, to the studios. All expenses paid. I'm just kidding. We do not have that kind of budget.
It's all expenses paid as long as you live in Palm Beach, Dade, or Broward County.
Yes, I will pay for your coffee.
Right.
You're definitely welcome to attend as a guest. But anyway, let's continue. We definitely have digressed more than I wanted to.
Off to a great start.
Yes. Episode 7.
Lucky number 7.
Today's guest is one of the most recognizable faces and hats at any Florida track day. He's a senior instructor for every club in the state. And if you've driven a track day in Florida, chances are you have seen him. Victor Leo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you, man.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
All right, Vic. You've pulled a gigantic American flag at a NASCAR race. You've taken terminally ill children for hot laps at Sebring, and you've survived a one lap of America. Which of those gave you the biggest chills?
The children.
I thought you would say that.
Yeah, that's a great event that Vic coordinates every year.
Yeah.
Why don't we dive into that?
You've been there.
Yes.
You've attended it with us. You've helped out. You've helped feed the kids.
Yep.
It's just one of those things. I literally have considered it for the last 15 to 20 years. It's my mental reboot every year in my life.
So for people that are listening, a lot of people, have never done a track day. So kind of fill us in what exactly that is.
So it's similar. We'll call it like a Make-A-Wish Foundation, where we take a group of families, up to 50 families, and we provide them a weekend where we take the children, the families, siblings, for rides in the race cars. It's meals, it's activities, face painting. We've painted a race car every year for the last, I think we're on 11 years of me being able to find a race car. David Twatty provided the second car.
I think it was a white Porsche 944, was it?
No, it was a BMW. First couple years were BMW E30s. Mine was the first one. David's was the second one. That's a funny story. We were at the what used to be the Chateau, now the 7 at Sebring. And somebody's like, what are you going to do next year? Like, you're going to repaint the car? And I was like, I can't repaint it. There's too much cool stuff on the car.
Yeah.
So
What happens to those cars, by the way?
they've just gone through the years. Some of the cars are still painted the way they were
With the
to this
kids'
day.
prints,
Kids'
right?
handprints, and I mean, kids draw horses. One kid drew a dragon on the hood of one of the cars that kind of became the logo for, what at the time was Kids Race for Life. It's changed entities now. It's Base Camp Goes Racing, and so the second year, somebody was like, what are you going to do for the kids this year? And we were at the restaurant there at the Chateau, and I screamed across the restaurant at David Twatty, and I said, give me one of your cars. And he goes, define give. And I said, I need a car for the kids to paint this year at Kids Race for Life. And he goes, you come to the shop and pick the car.
Oh, nice.
And it just started that rolling for event to event. And, we've done Corvettes, Mustangs, Porsches, Mercedes, over the years.
So the overview is, from what I remember, it was Kids Racing for Life, and I know it's moved on to now it's called Base Camp.
Base Camp Goes Racing, yeah.
So essentially, the club and people that want to really essentially invest into this program, they have families come out to the racetrack with families that have typically terminally ill children
or life-threatening.
To basically a weekend at the racetrack. And right around lunchtime, we give them, the kids and usually the family members, rides around the racetrack.
Right.
And it's such a blast. Can you tell me what was like maybe the first time that you did it? Like what was going through like your mind?
So first year I did it was 2007, and I had leukemia, and I'd just beaten the leukemia, so it really, really hit me to heart.
Yeah.
And so I just participated at the event, and it just blew me away. It just so blew me away. And then I've done it every year since. I have not missed a year. I won't miss a year. And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm, really helping run it, and I'm ordering helmets and just whatever it takes to make sure caterers and stuff like that. So I keep getting deeper into it every year, and I love it.
Can you share maybe a moment that has really stuck with you, like for a while?
Not without crying, because first year I did it, there was this kid Matthew, great kid, actually had the same leukemia I did, and I had so few side effects. I was like the poster child of leukemia, and this kid was the polar opposite.
Right.
And he had the greatest spirit. Me and him became really good friends, and but several years later, he finally succumbed, and that was rough. That was really rough.
I think Jim Boatman talked about Matthew. I don't know if you watched that video that we had created when we were trying to raise money for one of the years. Is that the same Matthew?
Same Matthew.
No kidding.
Yeah, that kid really,
because he really he stood out to Jim as well.
Yeah, he did. He was great. And so the first year when I came up with the idea to paint the cars, that was the year he passed. And that I remember, the only thing I painted on the car all weekend was, Matthew, you'll race with us always, on the back of the roof. And it was that was something that it tore me apart.
Yeah.
But that's what that event's for. And like I said, that's why I call it my mental reboot.
Yeah.
It makes you really take a lot of your life in inventory and decide, what's important.
I think it puts things in perspective, especially
It does.
for us that, have worked hard, for what we have. And then you go to the racetrack and you see a child that's stricken with a disease like that. It definitely puts things in perspective real quick.
There is a saying, people don't get cancer, families get cancer.
Yeah.
And this is their weekend that they don't have cancer.
Yep.
And we just try to do everything we can to provide everything for them for the weekend, and just really watching them, and it's great when you see a child that like their favorite car is an S2000 and there happens to be one at the event, and like you get that kid in that car.
Yeah.
You know, I have actually over the years, the more I help run it, I have more fun, and you guys have attended the event. Spend one of the days this year. It's a 2-day event. Spend one of the days getting the kids in and out of cars.
Oh yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did last year. So my wife was driving our car, and I was helping the kids get in and out, and it was a great experience.
Yeah.
They
The
come
only
off
hand?
and just like the smile is ear to ear, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, what's the only hand signal that matters?
Yeah,
This-
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, the thumbs up.
Yeah. But it's
That
great
thumbs up.
even when you're driving. So this last event, I spent half of that lunch hour helping kids in and out, and the other half actually driving. And yeah, it's just you can see them smiling through the helmet. It's a great experience.
Yeah. The open face helmets are on purpose.
Yeah,
So you can see their face, that you can talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
When I ordered the helmets, they were like, oh, we can get you helmets at this price. So it has to be a 3/4 open face so we can see
That's
them,
great.
talk to them. Yeah.
You know, I participated back when it was Kids Racing for Life with PBOC. And I remember that it was once I did it one time, I realized that I do not want to miss this event ever again. Like if I only do one track day a year, it'll be that event. And then I took a little bit of a hiatus and stopped going to the track. But I just remember that it was very impactful. You know, like the track time was really not even important that day for me. It was just getting one of the kids, you know, to ride next to me and give them rides around the track. It was just fantastic. This would be a great opportunity for you to tell people that don't know what the program is about, how to get involved, you know, who can drive the kids, who runs the event, you know.
So Terry Jones is who runs Base Camp. Base Camp is a charity. They do events throughout the year at various different types of events. So Base Camp Goes Racing is one of their events. So Chin Track Days, when PBOC finished business, Chin Track Days opened up their arms, so to speak, to take on the event for the foreseeable future, which is great, because they're such an established club. And part of that was because just I've done the event, I've done stuff with Chin, and everything just fell right in everybody's lap. So it was able to continue with Chin, with Base Camp. And so
who can drive the kids?
Really, it needs to be an intermediate to advanced driver or instructors, accomplished racers,
right?
People that have got enough years under their belt to know how to be patient. We're taking the kids, we're moving, we're hauling butt, but there has to be a giant sense of patience with the other cars on track.
Oh yeah,
that we want to give them a good time, but it's got to be 1,000% safe.
Yeah.
So you got to drive way under your limits, your car limits, but still fast enough that they're enjoying it.
That reminds me. I have a story about that. I think it was maybe the second time that I did Kids Racing for Life, and I had a kid next to me. During lunch, it had just rained, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I got to take it easy out there. I have this kid next to me. We go out there, and in Florida, it could rain in 30 minutes later, it's bright outside. So it was one of those deals. So I go out there, and I'm kind of just judging the track as I'm moving along. I'm like, okay, it's dry here, it's dry there. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I think the track is fairly dry by this point. So go out at 16. I floor it down the back straight, and there's a huge puddle at 17. Like water collected, like nowhere else on the track, but at 17 it was a puddle. And Vic, I kid you not, like my throat just fell to my stomach. I was like, oh, because the car started hydroplaning.
Right.
Like as I'm braking, I'm like, okay, I need to brake like ever so slightly. And again, I'm going into 17, at 100 plus. It still wasn't floored,
Right.
but maybe 120, I
Right.
guess. And so the car was like, I could feel it like hydroplaning. I'm like, please catch, please catch, please catch. And I'm keeping the wheel straight.
Right.
And it finally caught, and like I was able to turn. I'm like,
Good
oh
good
my
way to never get invited back to the charity event.
no, right?
Exactly.
I have never told that story publicly, so hopefully I'm invited again.
Well, you know,
Nah, you're always welcome. Yeah, because you knew what happened and you
It goes
learned
back to
from it.
experience. It
And
goes back.
to
That's
the
why
experience.
we want intermediate advanced drivers.
You know, I mean, any drivers meeting, you guys have both done drivers meetings, and that's the one drivers meeting every year where I will physically tell people, if you want to get excommunicated from the human race,
Yes.
go drive 1010s.
go do something dumb with one of my kids in your car.
Yeah. I've seen some of our drivers from the Super Lab series actually discuss, when they did that event, and they would bring out their prized possessions, their GT2s or
Yeah.
RSs, whatever the case is. Like, I'm just bringing this car out just for that event.
Yeah.
And that's really like special to see that.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is that you can drive at 8/10ths, and
Yes.
because
The
the
kids don't know.
overwhelming majority of them have never been in a car before,
Doesn't know
they
the
think, yeah, one of the kids that I took last time, he had just both hands death grip on, the armrest, just hanging on for dear life, and that was at 7/10. So yeah, it's good. It's really fun to show them a good time.
Yeah, then you lean over and you go like this.
And there-
You give them a thumbs up. You give them the the thumbs up, and all right, how are they doing? And so they love it.
Not to dive into the weeds of it, but I always wondered what happened if there was a fallout between Kids Racing for Life, the ministry, and PBOC. Why did that stop? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure. Stephen and Stephanie, bless their hearts. I mean, Stephanie's, bless her heart, she's no longer with us. But Stephen, I mean, they ran it for so many years. Stephen is 85 years old now.
Right.
So it's moved on, and I don't know the particulars. And then PBOC changed ownership, and that didn't work out. So it needed a home. And Wayne Estes Sebring, when he got wind of PBOC going by the wayside and all of that, he called Mark Hicks, at the time the general manager of Chin, and said, kind of, you need to do this. And Mark said yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark said yes, and then told me what I needed to do to make it happen right.
Nice.
So yeah, it very much, just good timing. Wayne, the right group of people.
All right,
was able to
before
keep
we
it going.
move on to our next segment, tell us when that event is happening in 2025.
This year it is the first weekend in November.
Okay.
So we
At Sebring.
At Sebring. We're getting it a little bit later in the year, so the weather's
That's
nicer for
good.
the families.
I did it
That's-
in the summer.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it's always been a September event, and this year was October. And Wei Shin, asked me one of the things he asked me this year is like, what does this event need? And I said it needs to be in November.
Yes,
and he
please.
said done. So this year it'll be in November, so
Nice.
the weather should be nicer.
All right, let's move on to our next segment. You participated in the One Lap of America twice.
Yes.
So I wrote out a whole description or summary of what it is for people that are not aware of what the One Lap of America is, which, by the way, is on my bucket list thing of things that I wish to do before I die.
And it was on mine for many, many years.
I'm sure. Okay, so the One Lap of America is one of the toughest grassroots motorsports events out there. It's a week-long endurance test. Drivers compete in time trials at racetracks all over the country and drive from track to track overnight. No support crew, no chase vehicles. Every car has to stay street legal, and you're on the same set of tires the entire time. That's correct, right? All right. Cars are classed by original MSRP and number of doors, but you can modify as much as you want as long as the vehicle stays street legal.
Yes.
The length of One Lap of America has been as long as 10,000 miles in over 10 days to just under 3,000 miles in the span of 6 days. What was your experience like doing the One Lap of America, and what prompted you to do it?
Well, it's been on my bucket list for 100 years. Everybody's seen the movie Cannonball Run, and and it is literally the Cannonball One Lap of America. Let's get the shirt in there. Brock Yates, who runs One Lap, actually, it's the Cannonball One Lap of America, and he owns the rights to Cannonball. So it's legit.
Yeah.
So It's set currently these days. It's 7 racetracks in 8 days, and it runs about 3,500 miles. Starts and ends at the Tire Rack Test Track in South Bend, Indiana. And the one year I did it, we came all the way down to Sebring, and back up. And the other year, the first year I did it, it was 30 degrees and raining for the first 4 days in an Ariel Atom.
I was just going to say, tell me that you had an open...
An Ariel Atom. We're going to have to put a picture of what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's nuts.
It's not the kind of car that you want to be driving around when it's 30 degrees and
No,
raining.
it was rough. It was really rough. And that went all the way up through the Northeast.
Yeah.
Up at, went to Pit Race, Palmer Motorsports Park, Summit Point, NCM. So it did that route. It's one of those things that whoever you do it with, at the end of the week, you'll either be friends forever or you will never, ever speak to that person again. I did it with Jack Beecham from Chin Track Days, and I got lucky. He did it 2 years before me with Charles Espenlaub. And Charles got a deal to go race, I believe it was Nürburgring, and said, sorry, Jack, I can't make it. And so about 5 days before the event, he said, are you available?
No kidding.
And I got to do my bucket list event that I've always wanted to do in a bucket list way. And I mean, an Ariel Atom. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. So that was really, really cool. We did it 2 years, finished second overall both years, but it's grueling. It's grueling.
Well, especially in an Ariel Atom when it's 30 degrees and raining.
Yeah. And honestly, the second year, it was bright and sunny the entire time. And somebody took a picture of me and Jack and put it on Facebook somewhere. And my son-in-law had replied to it and said, you look like tomatoes with eyes. So it did rain one day during that year, and we welcomed it because we had literally baked in that car for 6 days.
Yeah.
So walk me through that, because I really am very interested. I want to do this at some point. So are you traveling through the night to get to the next track?
Not quite, but I'll just give you one. So generally, let's say there's 100 cars. So it's 3 laps from a standing start. And all 100 cars run through their 3 laps.
At the racetrack?
At the racetrack.
Okay.
And then they do it again, a second time. When you're done with your second round of laps, you pack your stuff back in your car and you start driving to the next track. The next track is anywhere between 500 and 700 miles away. So if it's one of those 700-mile runs, we went from Richmond, Virginia to Grand Haven, Michigan. We got there at 2 in the morning.
Now it's not a race to get to the next track, right? And I'm assuming that it's probably frowned upon if you get pulled over.
It's not a race to get to the next track, but there are giant bragging rights if you're the first guy at the next hotel.
Now, do they rotate I assume they rotate the order of the 100 cars.
Well, yes and no. Generally, they run in order of fastest to slowest, and the idea behind that is, so when we would go out, we were one of the quicker cars, so we were in one of the first 2 run groups all week, because you don't want...
Right, it makes sense.
You don't want a car that's running a 219 at Sebring on the track at the same time with somebody that's just... Oh, God, I wish I could show you the picture. There was a guy that did it. He built a National Lampoon's station wagon, the green Woody station wagon, and him and his buddies just did it for the week. Obviously, it was one of the slowest cars there.
Not if it was running a 219 at Sebring. That's
no.
impressive.
We were running a 219. He was running like a 419 at Sebring. And so we're not running over each other. They try to keep the cars somewhat. So like we got to be at the track at 7 in the morning.
Right.
But the guy that's running further back in the pack, he doesn't need to get to the track till like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, so he could sleep in. So it's, it kind of flows. There's no drivers meeting at the given track that everybody has to be there at 7. You just get there in time to get into your run group.
Talk to me about the tires, the 200 treadwear tires that it says that you're supposed to run. Is that something that the organizers mandate a particular tire, or is it up to you guys to decide?
There's a giant list of tires that are on Tire Rack because it starts and ends at Tire Rack test track. So,
but you can't choose.
You can choose. They stamp the tire at the beginning of the week, so they know if you change a tire, which you can. You get a flat or something on the road, you can, but you better bring that shredded tire back with you that shows something on the road went through the sidewall or something. You better not just say, "Oh no, I had a flat," because
I conveniently had 4 flat tires halfway through the event.
exactly.
So you can replace a tire if there's an incident.
If
like
there
that.
is an incident, yes, you can replace a tire, but you got to kind of be able to document it a little bit.
Okay, because I have seen pictures of these cars, and I think one of them might have been yours, where you're towing all your equipment in
Yes.
the
and we have
in the Atom.
a front and a rear,
Yeah.
hanging on the side of the trailer.
That's
and
nuts.
so because the car was different tires front to rear, so we had spares, just to get us through the week, but we can't use them.
Right.
We can't just decide to put that tire on the car.
So what was your tire of choice?
It was a Yokohama A008.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want something that's going to last the entire road trip and also be
It's got to last
sticky.
4,000 miles. It's got to last 4,000 miles. It's got to still not kill you in the rain if it rains on the last
Right.
day. It can't be that. And there are a lot of guys that,
They want
with
super sticky.
the heavier cars that could be running the same tire as us, but the Ariel Atom's only, 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
You put that same tire on a 3,300 pound Z06 or ZR1, or Viper, they're getting sketchy at the end of the week. They're moving tires around throughout the week, moving them. They're running a square setup.
My guess, a good tire for something like that, for an event like that, would probably be like the Continental ECF,
Yeah.
right? Something-
RT660,
Oh, really?
Falcon, they hold up pretty well. They don't want to kill you in the rain.
Right.
Because you're going to get rain at some point in the week. I mean, we did, like I said, that year that it rained all week. I mean, I drove Summit Point. Jack drove the couple tracks before that. I drove Summit Point, and I was 6 gear down the front straightaway with the rooster tails 30 feet off the rear tires at 130 miles an hour. You need tires with tread.
So it helps that you can work on your own car because you cannot have a support crew, right? So it's a good thing if you're mechanically inclined.
Oh, yes. And by the way, I mean, in general, it's a great group of people that will stop and help you. We had a breakdown in the middle of the night driving from NCM, National Corvette Museum, to Road America. Had the suspension fail. Ended up, went by a guy's shop that, they were working on other one-lap cars, just to get him to the next event. And we went there, had to rebuild a suspension arm, reinforce it, put it back on the car. And when we left that shop and we were driving up to Road America, at one point, we were just so tired. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and Jack reaches over and he hits me and he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Was that a lane change or a nap?"
Oh,
Okay, time to let him drive.
Right.
yeah.
So it's grueling. It's grueling.
So tell me what you think about the car selection, because I was looking at the list of the previous winners. Now, I didn't really get to look at everybody who was entered, but I'm looking at a lot of Porsches. Again, these are the winners, right? So I'm looking at a 911 Turbo, a GT3, a Corvette ZR1, Nissan GTR. How do you go about choosing like a good car?
It obviously depends on your budget. GTR, turbo Porsche, an all-wheel drive car is sort of like spec one lap of America.
Right. You want an all-wheel drive car.
Pressing the easy button.
Yeah, it's kind of pressing the easy button, but there's a lot more. There's a lot of cars that are a lot more fun to do it in.
Like an Ariel Atom.
Yeah, I want to do it in my Cobra. So, it's not the brightest thing in the world to do, but I want to do one lap in my Cobra.
I
just
see.
got to find somebody dumb enough to do that with me.
I see a few Vipers here on the list of winners.
Yeah.
That seems like a crazy car to do that in.
Yeah, and it's what's his name?
It was a Brian Smith and David Zilkowski.
Spectacular drivers.
Yeah.
Guys.
That was going to be my next question is, I see on this list of the past, 10 years of the winners of the One Lap of America, there's a lot of repeat names on that list. And so that's my question is, do they have the whole system dialed in, or are they just really that good?
Both. both. You got to have your stuff together and be prepared. But a lot of people would say like, oh, it's a bunch of Larrys with a bunch of money, and from let's say 8th place, 10th place on down to 30th place. Yeah, it could be people with money to have a good car, decent drivers, whatever. The guys in the top 10 can wheel a car.
Yeah.
They can get in anything and just drive it in any conditions. It was really humbling to me. I mean, I'm a really quick learn at new tracks, and but I found, I met 20 people that were as good as me at learning a track in the rain. I'd never been to Summit Point. I finished 3rd out of 100 cars. But there was other guys in the top 10 with me that were, first. It was their first time too.
Randy Popes has done that, right?
Yes, he has.
Yeah. I didn't see his name on the.
I mean, Randy's done it. Shane Lewis has done it.
Oh, really?
Ian Stewart's done it. I think Ian Stewart did it last year. I think last year he finished second. I'm not sure, but he did it last year and had a pretty good run at it.
Yeah. Is that something you'd want to do, Mike?
Not with you.
Why not?
And not in Vic's Cobra.
No.
Yeah, I would need like one of those comfy, like a Panamera or
honestly,
something with heated and ventilated.
You know what?
Your Cayman would be.
It would be good.
I did see on the list. I don't think it's part of the ones that I printed out, but there was an M5, like I think in the 90s that won it.
Yeah,
that kind of makes sense. I mean, for driving long distance,
It's comfy.
that would be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
It would definitely be something with a roof. I will tell you that if I'm doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
What every year when they finish one lap, everybody starts, they get on the forums and the chats and, what's your improvement next year? So the first year Jack and I did it, it just rained and rained and rained for all 3 days. We were actually ducting the air off the radiator back into the cabin of the car just to warm us up a little bit. So at the end of the year, so I'm like, what are you going to do for next year? And Jack just typed out there, bigger drain holes. It's just because the car was just full of water the entire time.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next segment, which used to be my favorite segment, Instructor War Stories.
Well, see, now you've got the right guest for Instructor War Stories now.
What do you mean?
Well,
the guest, yes.
Victor's
yes.
been instructing, since he came out of the womb, I think.
I'm hoping that, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to disappoint us with some good stories
I've got
the
some
paddock.
good. I've got some good ones. How many am I allowed to tell you?
Tell us one that just stands out.
First of all, we need to point out that this is an anonymous segment, so you're not allowed to mention anybody's name.
Okay, I will not mention names. No, I might mention one person's name because he's actually a really, really good friend of mine.
As long as they're a good sport about it.
So I'll start with that one. So I was at a chin event, and I was assigned this guy, Tony, with a supercharged Viper, a first-generation Viper, so before any ABS or any of that in the Vipers, with 1,050 horsepower.
Oh.
And he informed me in the morning that he didn't need an instructor, and but Chin said he had to have an instructor, so I was just going to have to sit there and ride with him for the weekend. And I was thinking, I'm going to die today. And so I had to work really, really hard to, sort of befriend this guy.
Yeah.
So he'd listen to me. And I actually remember at the end of the orientation laps, sitting in my chair, staring at the ceiling of the garage at Sebring, thinking, I got to dig deep. I got to dig really deep to work on this guy. And so,
was he a difficult student, or was it just the car?
Well, at the beginning, it was both.
Okay.
Because he just, he initially said,
I'm not listening to you.
yeah, just you have to ride with me. That's fine. You whatever, do sit there and be quiet.
Sounds like one of the personas from our.
Crazy Carl.
It's Crazy Carl. It's Crazy Carl. And so we go out for the first session, and he's rip-raring ready to go. And this is a hack for all instructors out there. And I probably shouldn't say this because students might be watching too. But if you're not sure of your student and you're kind of don't want to be the first guy in line, start messing with your communicator and act like it doesn't work. And hold on, stop here, and like jump over the wall and change the battery or in your communicator. So 8 or 9 cars pass, so you're not the first car leaving pit road.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, but now that the cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag.
Right.
But
when it happens for real, the student's gonna be like, yeah, I know what you're doing.
I did that, and so it got us a few cars back in line. So by the time, and that first novice session every weekend is always a little bit of a freight train, and I was counting on that. So by the time we got 3 or 4 laps in, and I could see he was moving up the line of people, I picked turn 16 at Sebring, and I said, hey, let's try something. Let's like swing way out to the left, kind of park it, turn it, and just let the gas pedal do its job instead of trying to fight the exit of the corner and tell me how it feels. And the guy loved it. I was dead silent for 4 laps, didn't say a word, and I picked the one thing, and then he started listening to me. By the end of that weekend, we were having so much fun. We were laughing. At one point, he missed 2 or 3 corners, like turn 3 to 5 at Sebring, that little complex there, and he missed it like 3 laps in a row and getting frustrated with himself because we really had it going good earlier in the weekend. And I looked over at one point, like, do you have Alzheimer's or something like that? And we laughed so hard we missed turn 7. But it took becoming his friend.
Right.
And we've been friends ever since. That was 15 plus years ago.
And building rapport with your student is key.
Yeah.
It leads to a much better outcome for everybody. Yeah. If you build that trust, you build the rapport. Yeah.
So that was great.
Have you ever been involved in a significant incident at the track with a student?
Yes. Yeah. NASA promotes a lot of these kids coming up through go-karting and various other sorts of like motocross and whatever, but young kids coming up through into Spec Miata. And so they have the youth, I forget what they call it, the youth Spec Miata series or whatever. And so they promote those kids coming up. And so I had a kid assigned to me one day that just wasn't understanding that, his go-kart had more tire contact patch at 400 pounds than his, now with me in the car, 2,800 pound Spec Miata, and he tried to turn into turn 3 thinking it was his go-kart and buried us windshield deep in the tire wall.
Is it at Sebring or Homestead?
At Sebring, turn 3, he lost it, car got sideways, came back on him, and we went dead straight off in the grass, and just buried the car in the tire wall.
Yeah. What did you say to him?
Don't take your seatbelts off. Relax. We're fine. He was starting to freak out to get the belts off, and I just
he was shook up. Yeah.
Yeah, just sit down. Yes, we're okay. I made sure he was okay, and I said we're just gonna sit here till the safety truck gets here. We're fine.
Nice.
Trying to restart the car, and I just sit.
Yeah.
So, and you're trying. I mean, I was as uncomfortable as you could get, but I'm trying to talk, he always talked, like Mike always, so monotone. But I was trying to hey, we're okay. Sit here for a minute. Safety truck will come to us. It's not on fire. I don't see any smoke.
Yeah.
But
have you ever been on a off-track excursion with a student?
I've never been more. I mean, we've dropped 2 wheels off, with somebody that's really starting to push the envelope and find the edge. But thankfully, I've never had an incident where I thought that I was ever in any grave danger, or we've never done anything really
where you had to take Todd's advice and just go,
right. Yes. No. Yeah.
Relax.
I had one at Circuit of the Americas, a guy in a Cayman Club Sport, and I had done a check ride with a guy, got out of the car, kind of gone over, got him his armband and whatever. And while I was standing there, they had a guy that was one of the other instructors was going to do this check ride, but didn't fit in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, do you mind doing the check ride? So I grabbed one of the chin loaner helmets, because my garage was, a quarter mile away. So I just grabbed the helmet, jumped in the car, and we went out, and it was wet. And the guy was driving really, really well, but he was using a lot of the paint on corner exits.
Oh, yeah.
And having already driven the track earlier that day, the paint had an amazing amount of grip, not like the ice at Sebring. But I did make a comment to him. I said, you have a lot of faith in the paint. You're doing great. Just, take it easy. And one lap he came up out of, I forget which corner, I forget the numbers, but came up out of that last, as you come through the S's, that last left-hander that kind of pops up onto the straightaway, and he went out a little bit and got into the AstroTurf. And the car made a 90-degree left-hand turn. And as he's losing it, I'm thinking, my Hans is sitting on the hood of my car in my garage. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And the car does a 360, noses into the wall, does another 360 and hits the wall again. And we're sitting there, and again, this car exploded the front end, the radiator's steaming everywhere. And I just told him, don't move, we're fine, whatever. Fortunately, Coda is built with such safety in mind. I mean, we hit the wall, the wall moved 4 feet.
Yeah.
It just moved the wall, the way it's constructed. Right. So it
driving
wasn't
in the rain, man.
It wasn't the hit that I initially thought it was going to be.
Thankfully.
Correct. Yes, thankfully. And so that one was like another one of those. Okay, move on.
I have a video of you driving in the rain. I believe it was a Chin event at Homestead, and it was downpouring so badly that there were no cars on the racetrack. And all of a sudden you see these two massive SUVs go whoop. That was you driving one of those.
Yes.
Who was the other driver?
Rene Badia Jr.
Rene
Badia. Yeah,
That's nobody
would go out, and we pulled up to pit out. And since it was a Chin event and I was wearing a Chin shirt, they just went,
yeah,
and just let us go out. And
everybody was in the garages just watching you.
Yeah,
you guys turn laps.
I forget who was in the truck with Renee, but Abby was in my truck with me.
Uh-huh.
And I actually found a way to get that truck to go flat through turn 10 in a monsoon. I think the tires were working more like rudders than they were tires.
Yeah. Not sure if that's brave or stupid. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
All right. You know what? We're going to move on to my new favorite segment, which is the rapid fire questions.
Not so rapid?
We are going to make them rapid because we are running out of time. This is going to be the Pick a Club edition of the rapid fire questions. So you have instructed for all the Florida clubs, essentially. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you, I'll throw out a category, and you name the club that comes to mind. You got to make it quick and snappy. We're going to go counterclockwise, so you can be involved too, Mikey. Here are the track day contenders, okay? So you got to mention one of these as I give you the category. FARA, Chin, NASA, PDG, PCA, and Track Day Experience, which is the formerly known as HOD, Hooked on Driving Southeast. Yeah, Steve's Club. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
So
you got. I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to name one of those track day clubs that I just mentioned.
All right.
All right. We're going to start with you. Best or most organized club?
Chin by a wide margin.
Yeah, I'm going to say Chin.
Yes.
All right. Number 2. Best paddock food and atmosphere.
It used to be PDG because he used to cater lunches, but he doesn't anymore. Damn.
It's got to be FARA, right? You get free.
Definitely FARA.
You
definitely
get the
FARA
food
now.
truck. Not only do you get the food trucks, you get the Mission Food free chips and salsa.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're right. FARA.
Got to go
definitely.
FARA.
And now we got the drifters coming in Saturday night, and it's a car show. It's like it's an event
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, most budget friendly club.
PDG.
PDG. They do
TDX.
give you a
PDG or TDX. They're really close, but PDG, Henry Gilbert, they definitely.
Okay, what do you think?
You throw like a write-in track night in America. I mean, you get what you pay for,
about
but
that.
you got to go. You got to go track night in America.
SCCA track night of them. You're right. That is
not that I would go track night in America, but you have to at least. Yeah, it's a write-in.
I should have wrote that one in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of tough because it's outside of our loop because they don't have instructors, they don't allow passengers.
Right.
So it sort of misses our radar.
That's why I would never actually go to track night in America.
Yeah, I did one of their events at Daytona, and the only reason was because it was Daytona, and I showed up, and they're just like, "What group do you want to go?" I'm like, "Really? That's it?" Anyway, so, yeah, Yeah, I'm going to go with you as well. Track Night America. Okay. Number 4, best swag in club shirts.
I have an answer here. PCA, because they design a new shirt for every event.
Just about every event.
So,
yes,
yeah,
I was just going to say
for every
PCA,
event.
Every event. Yeah.
Porsche Club has some really good shirts. I have a handful of them and I enjoy them.
I didn't know that.
PBOC used to have a lot of really cool shirts. My favorite shirt I've ever gotten from a club was PBOC, the Winterfest, the 6-hour Enduro. Really, really cool shirt. I love wearing it. But Porsche Club is right there. The Porsche Club 48-hour, really good shirts.
I didn't know that about PCA.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with FARA because I really like those shirts that they've designed. Okay, number 5, worst instructor shirts.
You're wearing it. I mean, those things are, they're made out of like some combination of wool and paper mache. They're just
This is
awful.
nice.
But that is a vintage chin
that
shirt.
Yes.
That is a vintage chin shirt.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken,
I am
Pomeroy is searching for a new vendor or a new supplier because they are really
I
terrible.
like this shirt.
No, it's awful. It's
Okay, what's
scratchy.
your
It's
answer?
heavy.
Worst instructor shirt.
NASA.
Thank you. Holy cow,
I
it's ugly.
I have never been to a NASA event, so I can't speak for it. But let's just give props to any organization that gives instructor shirts.
Yes.
You know, if you're an organization, you got people.
Yeah, because in that case, we could say PDG because they don't give
Right, exactly.
shirts
There
at
you
all.
go. Come on, Henry.
True. Yeah, the NASA shirts for the instructors, that's the only club that I will not wear their shirt just because it was so ugly. Like, I'm not wearing that. Any other club, I'll wear it. All right, number 6, sketchiest tech inspection.
Well, you have to go to the clubs that have no tech inspection.
Yeah.
So
Well, which is
PDG, I assume
There
Track
you go.
Night in America.
yeah, Track Night in America, PDG.
yeah, no. Tried that. It was just like fill in the blank.
Yeah. I have to say that I think that FARA does a great job. John is fantastic
Yes.
at that. Like, he really generally has like people's best interests in mind and doesn't want to send people out there that, have beat on tires or brakes. So
Yeah.
it's a good balance of, on the one hand, you've got PCA that makes you go to a PCA approved shop and you've got to fill out all kinds of forms and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then on the other hand, you have people that just don't do it at all. FARA does a really good job right in the middle.
Yeah. And I mean, Chin, where you sign you're signing that waiver that you are verifying that your car, and so they've kind of moved the liability,
Your responsibility.
the responsibility over to the driver or owner of the car.
Makes sense.
All right.
And Chin will hunt you down if you don't fill it out right. Like, let's say you sneak through and it's not right. They check every single sheet.
Really?
And they'll, hey, you didn't fill this part out or you didn't sign that part. And they will double check.
All right, let's move on. Number 7, best track etiquette versus survival of the fittest.
Best track etiquette is Chin. I'm going to go with Chin. Porsche Club is a close second there. They care.
Survival of the fittest.
PDG and TDX.
Really?
Yeah, they don't have the manpower
Yeah.
to police it properly. FARA does have enough manpower. NASA has enough manpower. Porsche Club has plenty. But TDA and Track Night in America, they don't have the manpower that when somebody passes without a point by or somebody's being, crazy Carl out there, they don't have somebody to go over and say, hey, everybody, don't terrorize people. Everybody deserves to have a fun track day.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right,
Chin is the best. Track Night in America is presumably the worst.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the same answer as you guys. Okay, number 8, most likely to attract influencers that cannot drive.
We should just call this the Track Night in America session.
No.
No, not for that one.
No, not for that one. I'm gonna have to say, FARA and NASA.
Yeah.
I would say FARA just because like David is the Pied Piper of social media.
And he brings
And I've
people in.
seen
And some
them.
people, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword. You're bringing a lot of people in, which is great for the club. And if you could just police those people that have no idea and get them in the rhythm, you're fine.
And And I've seen them. I've seen them even when they're checking in. I'm like,
Right.
oh, it's one of those. And they
And-
usually come in with a whole entourage, and they have the cameras.
The 360, yes, that's always a bad sign. Is when they have the 360 degree
instructor,
like
right?
selfie stick thing.
When you
that's
get
stuck
in,
to
you're
the
like,
rear
oh
window.
no, not one of those.
And then NASA, and it's no fault of their own, but they have the Toyota program, the GR program.
Yeah.
And so they just get this influx of people that, they bought a GR Toyota of some sort, and they get a free track day and no clue.
Yep.
And so they're just not aware. And I've seen a lot of those people really surprise us. And some are, they're racing with NASA now, and they, but they bought a Toyota Supra and did their first track day, and got hooked.
All right. My answer is FARA as well for the influencers, because I've seen it.
Yes, we've all seen it.
Yeah. But because it's a whole show, you
Right.
know, so it attracts
It
that.
works, right? Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, number 9, snobbiest paddock.
Porsche Club. Sorry. And I love those people. They're friends of mine, but they love their Porsches and they don't like when a Camaro shows up.
So I will one up your answer and say the only thing worse than a bunch of Porsche people in a paddock is a bunch of Porsche and BMW people in a paddock. So I got to go PBOC.
Oh,
But they're not around anymore. So, but I agree.
Well, if this is a living or dead segment, I
Really?
guess.
You
I
thought
really-
PBOC was snobby?
Yeah, but it was all Porsche Club people.
Yeah.
I mean, they were at both events.
Right.
True.
I mean, they used to even encompass their registrations together.
Yes, I remember that.
back in the day. So,
I remember that.
So yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say PCA, but I'm going to retract my answer and go with PBOC because it's usually the same people anyway. Yeah. All right. Number 10. Most likely to have an exotic worth more than your house.
I'd go Chin there.
Me too.
There's somebody that shows up with like multiple Paganis.
I've seen a Pagani
yeah,
there. Yeah.
But that same Pagani that they talk about on Chin has been to FARA events. He's a friend of mine, and the car's it's spectacular.
Is that the guy that has the one hanging on the wall in the condo, or is that somebody different?
No, that's him.
Okay.
And he was at one of the FARA events pre David Twatty when Tika was still running it at Sebring, and something got somewhere out on social media that this Pagani Zonda R was at Sebring, and there were people driving down from Georgia just to look at the car in the paddock, and he was so great. I mean, people would walk up and they're trying to take pictures of it, and he took the rope down, let them take pictures around the car. He was so great with that. He was just really made a lot of people's days.
Yeah, genuinely seems like good people.
Yeah.
All right. We got 6 minutes, and I got a whole bunch of other questions that I want to get to.
We'll have to have this Vic back.
Yeah. Okay. Last one for rapid fire. Okay. Most likely to have a self-proclaimed HPDE champion.
I mean, every club has that guy. I mean,
Yes.
come on, you remember? You guys might remember the video from a bunch of years. I drive flat out.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows
World
that video.
famous.
Every club has that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But I would have to give the nod. I'd have to give the nod to Chin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going FARA just because with the Superlap series, you can actually be the HPDE champion.
Yeah, but not really.
Right.
But I know what he's
anymore.
talking about. A
Yeah,
novice
no,
guy
yeah,
that
yeah,
shows
no,
up.
I
And
know.
just,
I am the fastest,
Yeah.
in HPD. Like,
Right.
I'm going to go with NASA because I've heard that when I drove with NASA years ago.
people they show up with some great equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and they've read a lot, but we work very hard at bringing those people back to reality.
Right.
But they show up in the morning, with their red suede shoes,
Full driver suit.
Yeah.
full driver.
I won the HPD. All right. Let's say Hollywood is making a movie about the Florida track day scene. They're casting big name actors to play each club. Who do you pick to play FARA?
So you're talking about a person from FARA?
No, an actor to play the club in general.
Because that answer would obviously be David Twatty if you were talking
Yes.
about somebody that's actually there.
Yeah.
Big name actor. They would play FARA.
I got somebody for FARA. I think it's perfect. Again, I'm going living, just like PBOC, we're going living or dead, right? I'm going Robin Williams because
Really?
fun. Well, let me listen to my,
I was
listen to my
thinking Ben
explanation.
Stiller.
All right. What? Listen, no. This makes sense. Fun, right?
Yeah.
Super energetic, but at the end of the day, can
Yeah,
pull off the
Robin
Goodwill
Williams-
Hunting of it's serious and we're going to
Nice.
get down to business. So
Yeah,
I'm very
Robin-
good at this rapid fire.
Good answer.
Robin Williams definitely got enough energy.
Yeah.
Give me
Good
that one.
answer. All right, I'm gonna go with Robert Downey Jr. He seems like a FARA guy. And if you're out there, Robert Downey Jr., you're welcome to come compete with us. All right, who would play Chin?
See, I'd go Robert Downey Jr. for Chin.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little more subdued, but still out there, But no, Chin, I would say really just because there's so much under control of what Morgan Freeman.
Good answer.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Well, what would you think?
I'm going Clint Eastwood here. The wily old
Clint
veteran.
Eastwood.
You're there.
Been around for a while.
Yeah.
You know, everything's calm, everything's under control, but also, can really bring it when it comes time to.
I have Clint Eastwood, but for somebody else.
Oh, well,
For Chin, I have Tom Hanks.
Okay.
okay.
Just steady. You know,
not- I
you
mean,
know
it's-
what you know what you're gonna get when you see Tom Hanks. Okay.
Not as good as my answer, but okay.
Okay. NASA. Who's gonna play NASA?
NASA.
NASA, Florida.
I'm friends with a lot of the American Iron guys, and they're a hoot. So I'm gonna go with like Jim Carrey. Like if you want to get that American Iron side of stuff,
yeah.
those guys, Jim Carrey could definitely fulfill like Bruce Byerly, Pat Waymeyer.
Okay, I can see that. I got Liam Neeson for NASA. Okay, let's continue. We got 2 minutes. PDG.
Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
Okay.
The first thing that came to mind was Sly Stallone, but
We're there.
right. Maybe if the two of them got together.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Okay, for PDG, I got Clint Eastwood for PDG, or Al Pacino.
Yes.
Okay, PCA. Last one.
Oh, PCA.
It's got to be somebody that thinks that their stuff doesn't stink.
Yeah.
I hope you guys. I got Hugh Jackman.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah, that's
Good
good.
answer.
Rob Lowe. I'm going Rob.
Good
I'm going
answer.
Rob. I'm awesome at this.
Write that one down. Rob Lowe for PCA.
Did I win
Yes,
I
you
think
won
you
that
did.
one.
I
the
think you
lightning
did.
round?
Yeah.
Oh my
Samuel
gosh.
Jackson
Okay.
was good.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson was very good.
Too many. We're gonna have to go over. Okay. Anyways, if the Florida Track Day scene was a reality TV show, what would be the drama, and who would start it?
What would be the drama?
And who would start it?
I'd definitely say it'd be like, I mean, not exactly sure where you're coming from with this, but like it'd be a novice person that starts the drama, not obeying the rules.
Okay.
Or whatever.
I mean, like between clubs.
Oh, between clubs.
Yeah, it was a reality show, and our characters are playing this reality show.
I'd have to. What is the track day experience? I think they've stirred up I think they've already caused some drama.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I'm
So
going.
they would be the culprits.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would be the culprits.
All right. Well, listen, it's been awesome having you. I have another page of stuff that I wanted to go over, but we are unfortunately out of time. So I'm going to wrap up this episode. Remember, everything that's interesting happens off the racing line. See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Right on zero. Bam. Hey, if you liked what you heard, be sure to click like and subscribe. If you are an HPDE driver, instructor, racer, work at the racetrack, EMT, and you have interesting stories that you would like to share, be sure to reach out to us. We would love to have you on the show.
Everything interesting happens off the racing line. I took the hard road, I've earned these stripes.